In the deep silence of the early morning, while the city slept under a blanket of stars, a man remained awake. His tired eyes were fixed on the ceiling of the room, searching for answers to questions that no one knew how to answer. It was Rogério, a simple, hard-working man, known by many for his generosity and serene smile. But that night, his heart was heavy with doubts, burdened by an almost unbearable weight. As the clock hands moved, he whispered almost like a prayer, "God, why? Why me?" The last few months had not been easy. Problems at work, financial difficulties, his wife's sudden illness. Everything seemed to be falling apart around him, and each night felt darker than the one before. Rogério, strong by nature and with unwavering faith, felt on the verge of giving up. Every morning, getting out of bed required an almost superhuman effort. In moments of solitude, dark thoughts haunted his mind. Has God forgotten me? Does he really care? That night of agony, Rogério sat on the edge of the bed, his hands trembling, and vented with tears in his eyes. "I don't know if I can continue. I don't know if I have enough faith." Suddenly, like a whisper coming from the deepest part of his soul, a memory came to him. The words of his grandmother, who had taught him about God's love since he was little. And along with that memory, like a ray of light piercing through the darkness, came to his mind a biblical passage he had heard so many times, but that had never made so much sense before. "But the righteous will live by faith." These words echoed in his heart. He remembered the Apostle Paul, who faced much greater tribulations and never stopped trusting. He recalled the countless biblical characters whose stories were marked by trials, but who found strength precisely when everything seemed lost. Tears continued to roll down her face, but now they were tears of hope. Rogério knelt down right there on the cold floor of the room. With a choked voice, he pleaded, "Lord, I have no control over anything. But if the righteous live by faith, help me to believe, even without seeing. Increase my faith." The next day, Rogério woke up with a different feeling. Not that the problems had disappeared, but something in his heart had changed. With each obstacle, he quietly repeated, "The righteous shall live by faith. The righteous shall live by faith." One afternoon, sitting at the kitchen table, he heard his little daughter ask, with the innocence of someone who believes even in the impossible, "Daddy, why do you cry sometimes?" Rogério crouched down to the girl's level and with a shy smile replied, "You know, daughter, sometimes Daddy is afraid, gets sad, but I trust in God. Even when everything gets difficult, we need to believe that He takes care of us." The Bible says that the righteous shall live by faith. And this faith is knowing that, even without seeing, God is with us all the time. The little girl opened a sweet smile and added, "So you don't need to be afraid, Daddy. I will pray with you." That night, father and daughter knelt together. Rogério felt the presence of God warming his heart. The faith that was almost fading was renewed before the simplicity of love and hope. The days that followed brought new difficulties, but Rogério stopped looking at the size of his problems and began to see the greatness of his God. He chose to trust, even without understanding. And with each small miracle, a bill paid, a medicine provided, a smile on his wife's face, he gave thanks and reaffirmed to himself, "The righteous will live by faith." When sharing his story with friends at church, Rogério heard advice, shared tears, but also found strength in fellowship. In one of those moments, a friend approached, touched his shoulder and said, "Rogério, your faith inspires me. We all face storms, but it is faith that keeps us standing. Don't give up. Your testimony is an example for all of us." Rogério smiled, feeling welcomed, and could realize that even in the midst of the desert, God was building something new. With every prayer, every step taken in faith, he confirmed to himself, "I am not alone. God is with me." If the circumstances did not change immediately, Rogério's heart was transformed. Instead of despair, he chose to trust. Instead of doubt, hope. and that passage became the motto of his life. But the righteous will live by faith. This story, dear listener, is a testimony of how God's words have the power to rekindle hope even when everything seems lost. Perhaps you are facing storms similar to Rogerio's. Perhaps you also question, where is God in the midst of suffering? But remember, faith does not mean the absence of difficulties, but the certainty that, even in the darkest moments, God walks by our side. Faith is crossing the valley knowing that there is a victory at the end. It is trusting that, even without understanding the reasons, everything works together for our good. As the word says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. No matter how great the challenge, God knows your heart, hears your cry, and renews your strength every dawn. Difficulties come, but they also pass. Faith remains. Therefore, if today your heart is downcast, if you feel it is impossible to continue, pray. Speak to God sincerely. The same God who sustained Rogerio, who gave strength to so many others, is ready to sustain you as well. Even when everything around you seems impossible and the desire to give up knocks at your door, remember, the promise still stands. The righteous will live by faith. If this story touched your heart, leave your like, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel to follow more stories of faith and hope. Together we are stronger. And remember, faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is moving forward despite it. God never abandons the righteous. He always arrives at the right time, bringing comfort, peace, and strength to start again. Trust, persevere, believe. May God bless you, renew your hope, and strengthen your faith with each new day.